Good morning and welcome to the 21st Streaming Media West. Glad to see you all here. Thanks for joining us, and I look forward to spending more time with you over the next couple of days. I'm Eric Schumacher Rasmussen. I'm the editor and VP of Streaming Media and the conference chair. And as you probably noticed when you registered or picked up your program, this year's event is bigger than ever. In addition to the two main tracks or core tracks, we've got a video engineering summit, a sports streaming summit, and a live streaming summit all going on at the same time. I'd like to introduce our kickoff speaker today. How many of you have cut the cord? That's actually less than I thought for folks in this industry. Well, surely you saw the news that in the last quarter, 1 million people have cut the cord, and one of the reasons they're able to do that is because of services like Sling TV. As group president of Sling TV, Warren Schlichting oversees all aspects of the Sling TV business, including strategy and performance. Additionally, he oversees the acquisition and renewal of all programming for Dish TV and Sling TV, as well as advertising sales for both groups. So with that, I'd like to introduce Warren Schlichting from Sling TV.
Hey, Eric. Thank you. Okay. When I was preparing for this talk this morning, I went back. Way back, even before the beginning of streaming media. And I looked around, internally, my earliest television memory, Gunsmoke. Now, I'm dating myself, right? But Gunsmoke, it was so real, right? We had a little television. Look, I grew up in the Midwest, a very small town. But for the rest of the day, we would be out there playing Gunsmoke, reenacting Matt Dillon. Now, we were in a Western of our own, but I'll leave that for another day. Football, right? As a Midwestern kid, I was in love with football, right? Who can forget Howard Cosell, Dandy Don, right? Those memories, they forge, to this day, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. Why? I grew up in the middle of Kansas. I don't know. I think because of television, right? That television is that impression on a young kid really sort of drove my early thoughts about a career, right, to becoming a professional athlete. Now, I've since given those up last year. But if you think about it, television is one of those things. 1983, right? MASH said goodbye. Spring of 97, Ellen came out. 9/11. 2009, The Miracle on the Hudson. You all remember where you were at each of those moments, right? And you have this indelible memory in your brain, and it's from television. If you look at Charles and Diana, right? These huge television moments. Kate and William, Meghan and Harry. TV is a funny thing. No other medium has the power to move. And yet somehow, recently, there's doubt about the future of TV. Why is that? What's happening? With the shift to live streaming TV, doubt has certainly followed Sling. And as many are well aware, in the beginning, we had countless haters. Actually, we still do. We have a lot of people that are saying, can you just stay with the old model? It'd be good for everybody. And I don't think it would be. So now as a technical piece, right, we've solved a few of the issues. Video over the internet, something the internet was never designed for, has been a big part of our early years. And as we've solved that, and as that's become more accepted, now it's about the other piece, right? It's about the business model. Are you going to be profitable? Is it viable, right? Look, we believe at Sling that streaming TV can actually reverse the trend that we've gotten used to in pay TV, right? What's going to be buried isn't television. What's going to be buried is the old practice, the old way of pay television. So, thank you everyone for coming. I'm Warren Schlichting, and as Eric mentioned, I oversee the Sling, the business of Sling, as well as programming negotiations at Dish and ad sales. I'm primarily focused on Sling, although we continue to make news on a daily basis on our programming negotiations. I've been in the industry more than 15 years, and I have to say, I feel like I'm the luckiest guy in television. And I'll tell you why. Does anyone want to know why? About 20 years ago, I was involved in a startup. And by the way, I think I was at maybe the second or third streaming media conference. I don't think I got to the first one. But I was part of a cool new movement in the internet. It was going to be dynamic ad insertion and all of these pieces that were going to come trickled in cash. And we were going to disrupt this enormous advertising industry, right? And I think I thought that was going to happen on a regular basis. I don't know why, but it just felt like, well, I'll go to the next company that's going to disrupt everything, and the next, and the next, and the next. And it hasn't. You know, frankly, 20 years later, I'm up to bat again. And frankly, this opportunity is disrupting an industry on a much grander scale. That is exciting. That, my friends, is what gets me out of bed in the morning. So, when we launched Sling in 2015, I'd like to say we had the foresight to predict that we would forever change pay TV. Well, we didn't. Truth is, we didn't know where this thing would end up, and we still don't. But I work for somebody. You guys probably have all heard of Charlie Ergen, the entrepreneur behind Dish and now Sling. And he isn't afraid to blow it all up. And this sort of creative destruction is pretty rare with entrenched incumbents. And so Sling represents the arrival of a new kind of TV, right? And when we launched, we hit the major pain points. All we knew was, hey, old pay TV is broken, right? We've got complaints. It's one of the least liked. You know, it has an NPS score on par with the IRS. And so we hit the major customer pain points. No contract, no commitment, no equipment. But when you blow something up, you never know where the pieces are going to go, right? And we still don't. Frankly, the transformation, 4 years later, the transformation continues, and we're still just at the beginning. So a couple of numbers for you. 87 million and 7 million. Now, these are the approximate numbers of customers for traditional and streaming pay TV, right? Look, we talked before about doubt, but there's no doubt. There is zero doubt, right? The number on the right is going to go up, and the number on the left is going to go down. And it may take months and years. It may go in fits and starts. But I know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that those numbers are going to switch places, right? And so, if you think about it, as you're well aware, or at least all of those that I would say are enlightened among you, the future of TV is happening right now. It's literally being reinvented as we speak. And so what does that mean? Let's actually break that down a bit, right? As we get further along our journey, we've come to find that we're dealing with just a very different animal. Sure, we can hit the pain points of the boxes and the contracts and the rest, but from there you don't know where it's going to go. And it has taken off into another dimension altogether. So while other mediums like print are struggling to stay relevant, we think streaming TV is part of the rebirth of pay TV. So the next question is, how does that work? How does that kickstart it? I know you've read the articles about the viability of TV, but let's talk about what we've learned so far. And by the way, we've learned it the hard way. We've run into walls and got our nose bloodied just on logical moves that we think should work, but don't for whatever reason, or where we've gotten it wrong. So a good place to start, frankly, is how we measure the health. Now, you measure the health of pay TV typically by churn. Churn is the overriding indicator of health, right? It's like taking your temperature in the morning, your blood pressure in the afternoon. churn is how the traditional pay TV has been measured. And what we found is that if you offer, if you have no contracts and no commitments, well, churn's probably not a great measure, right? You say, there's no contract. You can come and go as you like. So just as a quick refresher course, churn's a pretty simple concept, right? And the fewer people that leave your service, right, the better off you are. Look, we made it incredibly easy for people to come and go. And you know what happens when you do that? They do. They come and they go. No big surprise there, but it was kind of a surprise, right? We were like walking backwards into the future going, well, we're going to fix all these problems, but oh my God, there they go, right? And so we're just getting out of that idea where, hey, we got a customer, yay, right? Oh, we lost a customer. Wow, that's awful. That's called churn, right? And we're going now, where we're headed now is to actually embrace that sort of behavior. So, traditionally the biggest drivers of people leaving pay TV were cost and the seasonal nature of programming, right? So, do these things still hold true? Absolutely. And you know what we find? The volatility is even greater, right? Football season's over. You see greater volatility at the beginning of football. You see people coming in, greater volatility at the end of football with people leaving, right? Cost. Does that matter? 100%, right? So the short answer is yes. A lot of the same things apply to live streaming TV. But there are other factors at play, and factors that you may not think about immediately, right? You know, when you look at some of the early pressures around churn with new competitors, you look at platform stability. And I tell you, one of the most interesting things that we've come to respect about old pay TV is that it works. It just works, right? You think about going from the snowy 19-inch screen. I can't believe we ever watched TV on that. And, over the air, coming in and out, to, 30 years later where you've just got this incremental, over time, those improvements have been incremental and small, but we've all come to expect pretty good stability, right? And so streaming services, frankly, just being honest here, they have a ways to go. We have a ways to go with stability. Now, we put a big emphasis on stability, but that is a really critical piece. The truth is that streaming live TV is just hard, right? Every streaming provider has experienced its share of major outages. We're no exception, right? The biggest difference between delivering live streaming TV, right, and the existing pay TV, traditional TV, is this idea of a closed loop. Both cable and satellite, and all three and telco, control the entire delivery process, right? And with streaming TV, once it leaves our servers, it goes through literally hundreds of vendors, pieces of technology. Somebody has an issue. They either, we're either chatting with them or occasionally a call. We have to start this diagnostic process. It sounds like, okay, who's your provider? What kind of box do you have? Can you look at can you watch other television? So it's a much, much more complicated process when something breaks down. It's just a completely different experience. So if you look at our introduction of the model where you have, okay, people can come and go as they wish, whenever they wish, no switching cost, right? And stability, right? Those two are either very good together or they're really, really bad together, right? As my son unceremoniously announced, as I was getting him excited about Sling, he goes, "Look, if you weren't my dad, I'd give this app about 28 seconds, and it either works or it doesn't." That's the new generation. That's what you're not calling for an appointment and saying, well, in a day or 2 days or 3 days, we're going to have satellite TV or cable hooked up, and then We're going to sign a contract. For 2 years, we're going to learn how to use the remote and get used to this beast in our house. It's like, I got an app. Nope. See ya. So to give you an idea of how far we've come, today we capture 10,000 times more data per second than we were able to when we first launched in 2015. And by the way, we're not done there yet either. The entire effort on the stability piece is to identify, if we can, real time and anticipate. Obviously, that's an aspirational goal, but to anticipate potential issues and solve them in real time before these hiccups occur. I tell you, that is a foundational step to regrowing the pay TV industry. The next step towards restarting the pay TV industry, to this rebirth that I'm talking about, requires us to dig a little bit deeper in terms of the behavior, because we can't rely on old measures like churn, right? We've got something here where we say, look, we know the current live streaming customer is more dynamic. And by the way, they're more tech savvy as well. There's a lot of trialing happening, right? A lot of people are jumping from service to service with practically zero switching costs. You have people going from trial to trial, trying to figure out which offering best fits their needs, and also, to some extent, just taking advantage of this frenzy in the market right now between OTT competitors. So the flip side of that is that even when they do sign up, even when we do get a customer, the idea of being with a provider for 10 years, it's that is ancient history now. But how do you turn that? How do you think about that? How does that become a positive? In fact, where live streaming services really began to pull away from traditional TV is that added flexibility, right? This mentality historically that we've had as pay TV providers of locking people into contracts is also that very same action that has caused all of the resentment. So how do we embrace this flexibility? We're moving away from this model of, the long-term contract has created some serious short-term pain. But in fact, in the long run, I think you'll actually have a happier and more satisfied customer. And that is critical in this new world. It's this customer satisfaction that I believe is the place we start in terms of the regrowing the pay TV industry. Okay, the next step is to gain a better understanding of the data. I talked a little bit about data on the operations front. We have a lot of data, right? So how and why do our customers take the actions they do? And I'm telling you, it is just data, data, data. I've got more data scientists at Sling than I ever thought possible at Dish and before that Comcast. Questions like, why did these customers decide to leave? What percentage came back and within what time frame, right? If you've got people that actually come back, hey, that's a good thing. You spend all that sack to get them, they leave, but they come back, right? Why? Why do they come back? Who is it that's coming back? Let's go get all of that cohort. And what types of programming did they sign up? And on and on. Understanding the answers to these questions will help us better refine that service to ensure that we're actually delivering the entertainment experience that folks want. That is so critical. And by the way, it seems like an obvious. Everyone in digital talks about data. It's a little tougher than it looks, right? It's tougher because you have false positives. It's tougher because you're not, in most cases in the digital world, you're not actually talking to people. You're not actually getting an explanation. You're just observing behavior. You're observing performance. So moving on, most of the conversation I've had so far is about our own journey when it comes to our experiences. The next observation is a little bit broader. It's about the industry and how the linear OTT space continues to evolve. Frankly, I can say I'm a little shocked that we haven't evolved faster. We have this awesome opportunity, but the rest of the industry really has been slow-footed about moving away from this old pay TV model of the big bigger, biggest pay TV packages. Oh my God. That big bloated bundle has got to go. In my other job, when I have my negotiating hat on, breaking the bundle is a critical piece of customer satisfaction. Before we ever launched, we closely studied customers' attention points and traditional pay TV, and one of the biggest issues cited, one of the biggest issues, and still to this day one of the biggest issues, over and over and over again, was paying for channels they don't watch. Now, we're not going to get to an a la carte universe anytime soon, but breaking down that giant bundle is just an important, I can't emphasize it enough. And with the launch of Sling TV, it seemed like the days of that huge programming package would be numbered. At least that's what we expected. And now new entrant after new entrant has continued down that path. And that programming model of the olden times, of the Gunsmoke days, continues to rear its head. So, why? We know how that story ends, right? If you continue to jam customers with programming that they don't watch, with prices that go up every year, we're just repeating the sins of the past. We know it doesn't work, so how long does the industry insist on offering that bloated bundle? Okay. As an industry with a second chance, we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I kid you not, I believe this. It might be because this is only my second time at bat, but you know what? We have an opportunity to hit the reset button in favor of the consumer. Wouldn't that be kind of interesting, right? In favor of the consumer, we have a chance to redo, reset, and move to a better place. The primary impediment in this to delivering an incredible entertainment experience is really the habits and the business practices of the past. And I just want to be clear, you should be no doubt that we stand with the consumer in creating that future. We are pushing back on these old business practices. We're in the news again today, and we will continue to push back. Traditional pay TV has seen customers flee for other entertainment options when you don't put customers first, and we are committed to standing with the customer. Okay, so by now many of you are familiar with Sling's unique programming structure, which gives folks the option to choose from a few base packages and then further tailor that channel lineup by selecting genre-based extras. And those are what you see on the screen there. While the live TV streaming industry is still in the early days, we think this unique model is a differentiator. And again, this is what doesn't have to be exactly like this, but we think this is a good path forward and that it will help grow our service. And the ability to personalize a TV service through these genre-specific extra packages increases the propensity for a happy customer and a customer that stays with you. And I know that sounds really obvious. It's not that obvious or that easy. Using the data to tailor these packages for individual groups of customers is all about customer engagement, right? And as this sort of initial flurry of OTT offerings begins to settle out, and I believe it will, we think this is an interesting place where customers will find an offering that they can afford and that meets their needs and is not 190 or 240 or pick your huge giant number of channels, most of which they're never going to watch. Okay, when you think of streaming, live streaming TV, if you want to go to the next slide, what immediately comes to mind, and I've spent a lot of time on it, is the live piece, right? The live aspect. But actually, we have tens of thousands of hours of VOD, right? And that's a big chunk and a growing chunk of our value proposition. Also, television's never been more accessible, right? We're now going from mostly indoor 10-foot experience to this mobile experience where people can take it with them wherever they go. And that expectation, by the way, has grabbed hold quickly. That expectation that you're able to take the game with you, take the series with you, watch it wherever you want, wherever you have Wi-Fi, is really a game changer. And frankly, we think that just the way music made that transition, we think video is sort of well underway with that transition. Next slide. If you look at how we support this, I'm obviously I've spent a number of years in the ad business, but what a cool time to be in television and to be able to take all the power of digital ad targeting, right? Whether it's psychographic, geographic, behavioral, everything you can do on digital, you can now do on these OTT. I mean, you can do it on Sling. I'm sure the others will be there soon. We are seeing incredible results, right? And it's becoming this invaluable tool for marketers because now you're just getting rid of the waste. It's another form of waste that you're getting rid of. You can reach only the folks you want. Now, we've been able to do that online for years. There was the promise of that sort of targeting with online video, but of course there was a lot of fraud and viewability issues and on to the point where, you know, as much as 60, 70, 80% of your buy was fraud. CPMs adjusted, sort of a crazy back and forth. No need for that here. You've got video ads that are in high production quality video shows, and you know it's being watched, right? Particularly in a digital household. So this ability to deliver live TV over the internet has created an immense opportunity. And I'm going to go a little bit further in that. So dynamic ad insertion allows this ability to sort of shoot an arrow through an open bus window as it speeds 90 miles an hour down the highway. And that ability has changed the process of buying and selling ads, and it's also taking us out of the ratings business. Very slowly, but it's taking us out of the ratings business. What has it allowed? Programmatic ad buying. Now, this is one of those pieces where you say, okay, we're machines are talking to machines, and that's probably a good thing because the number of variations on the impressions and the people that are watching and the households you want to hit and the advertisers' motives, you know, pretty soon you've got sort of 10 factorial and you're not going to be able to handle that sort of buy with people. But you can handle it with computers, right? You've got this ability to do programmatic buying on true television ad inventory. That has exploded the value. And so if you look at this, if you go to the next slide, what happens? Well, if you look on average, television marketers have spent about $70 billion this year, last year, the year before, since 2014. By the way, I used to do these numbers in 2007, 2008. They were 70 billion or 75 billion or thereabouts. The television ad industry has had a hard time staying even, right? In the meantime, we all know what's happening with digital ad revenues, right? It's just easier. The targeting is there, right? You see the efficiencies. There's no secret anymore why digital is growing and TV is having a hard time just staying even, just treading water, right? Television is a reach medium in the eyes of ad buyers, but with this new capability, right, that OTT and VOD offers, you suddenly have this super-powered product that could take that 70 billion and start to grow it again. It needs to grow. It should grow, right? Why would digital, and frankly the two are starting to merge to some extent, you could probably call this digital, but why? Why has that growth happened? Well, simply because television has stayed in place, stayed with its old habits, stayed with its old approach to much of this business. So, if you're skeptical about this, I'm telling you, I'm living it right now with Sling's ad revenues. It's nothing short of extraordinary. Okay. I'm incredibly proud of our ad sales team, by the way, as you can tell. And there's one other piece that we think will accrue from that, and that is the negativity around advertising. Now, we don't control how many ads are placed, and so that's an issue that the industry needs to grapple with, and that's on the programmer side. But we do know through NPS scores and other satisfaction measures of satisfaction that those targeted ads are actually better received and have less negativity associated with them than just this scattershot, high-frequency ads of old television. Okay. A common thread throughout the past few slides is one of engagement. And we believe the ability to keep consumers engaged with your app, your experience, your ecosystem is the key to winning. Consumer attention has become that rarest of all commodities, right? We all want the consumer's attention. And the consumer is spread thinner than ever. It's pretty amazing, right? If you look at some of the biggest and most highly successful digital companies, how they've gone down this same path. Frankly, when you think about it, we probably should have been on this path for many, many years. It's that idea of capturing attention and then monetizing it. A couple that come to mind, right? The big guys. You know them all. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Amazon. Attention, the consumer's attention, is what we're after when we talk about user engagement. So when you think about how much consumer attention these companies earn on a daily basis, it's flooring, right? According to Nielsen's latest data, American adults spend 25 minutes watching video on their phone, tablets, and computers, and about 45 minutes per day on social networking. That's a lot, right? Social media has really budged into into the consumer's mind. That is a lot of time scrolling through selfies, doing your status updates, and that's a lot of time for marketers to interrupt and intercede, right, with their advertising. But what if I told you the average American spends more than 6 times that amount watching television, right? Clocking in at about 4 hours and 46 minutes. That is an opportunity, my friends. That is an opportunity for high CPM advertising growth with targeting, with all of the things that we were just talking about. That is a huge opportunity. So, I know the idea of the pay TV industry growing again seems like a radical idea, but when you think about it, when you really, really think about it, is it any crazier than the idea of renting your home to strangers? Or even scarier, picking up hitchhikers in your vehicle and giving them a ride wherever they want? I think not. I think it's about time we put the consumer first and we restart the pay TV industry's growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Warren. Jose and I will be coming around the audience with microphones for any questions. So raise your hand if you have a question, and one of us will bring the mic to you.
My question is about targeting ads, because as a consumer that has a lot of SVOD services, I feel really disappointed with the ads. I mean, they just don't seem targeted at all. And I think that's where the industry is really disappointing, because surely there should be a better way to target.
So I should make sure you have a complimentary subscription to Sling. I would agree and disagree both with that. As I mentioned, Sling has really seen explosive growth with its advertising revenues, and it's because of that. One of the detractions, though, is that the programming obviously comes with a preset number of slots, the live programming, right? And so you might have targeted ads that fill half or 2/3 of that, but then you still have all of those leftover pieces, right? Wouldn't it be great? And you can do this on VOD if you could contract that into, no inventory or no avail. The other piece that I'd say is that we have been doing this for a couple of years. It's harder than it looks. I assume that with a freewheel ad server. You just shoot a targeted ad in and all would be good. It's really difficult. And so you see DirecTV Now isn't quite launched with theirs. Even folks like YouTube TV are just dipping a toe in the water. Hulu Live is not quite there. So depending on the services you have, I think you'll see a lot more of it. It's just a trickier, more nuanced step in terms of the actual insertion and getting that targeting piece right than we ever guessed it would be. So.
We have another question over here.
Uh-huh.
You mentioned small screen versus 10-foot experiences. What trends are you guys seeing in the viewership on either of those at this point?
It's a great question because we charged off into the wild blue yonder thinking we're going to get everyone on mobile and we're going to have a graphical interface and all this good stuff. So what we see is that, well, first of all, just as a funny aside, people are like, where's the grid? I go, oh, no. We have cool graphics with thumbnails and we want the grid. So we brought back the grid, and by now it's about 50-50. What we see on mobile is that there are much, much shorter sessions, and that they are many, many more sessions, so shorter and more, but the prolonged viewing, the real sort of hunker down, is still done on the couch. So we tend to favor that sort of couch viewing just because you have a longer viewing session, greater average hours. The piece that we think we're seeing is that when you combine the two of those, if you have any customer that has the two of those, you have sort of that best customer of all. Whether they're made or born, I don't know. That's where the data we haven't really figured that piece of it out yet. So. Okay.
I'm Petr Peterka from Verimatrix. Warren, thanks for sharing your pain and joy of kind of pioneering the streaming business. But you position it as pay TV versus OTT or streaming, but you are really in the pay TV business. You are just using new technologies and new business models to deliver traditional television. Do you actually see it that way?
So I'll take you down my sort of 4 or 5 step walk. At first, we did 2 things. One is we delivered television over the internet. But that's kind of what you're talking about. It's just another delivery vehicle. So I don't know. It was hard, and it has other features. And then the second piece was that we really are all about breaking the bundle, and you saw the genre packs. That piece was frankly more innovative than the internet piece was, which didn't feel like it at the time. And then to the point that I made earlier about when you blow something up, you don't know where the pieces are going to go. Now we're in a different world altogether because of all of the things we were talking about. Like the churn metrics don't make sense if you think about it as pay TV. So while I'm not disavowing my pay TV roots, that sort of the flexibility that it offers, the data that we have, all of that feels like the boat, the dinghy, is getting further and further away from the big mothership than I would have guessed. And we're kind of out there inventing it on the fly, to be honest with you. And frankly, the metrics, now it's still pay TV for sure, but the metrics are upside down as well. Like we just talked about the ad revenues. The margins on programming are practically nil. So the way we think about the business, the milk in the back of the store, and hopefully you pick up some goodies on the way out that actually, make some money. That's sort of the way we're looking at this new. So it's pay TV for sure, but nothing else really matches. And we continue to go further afield than we do, staying close to the original ship. So.
Thank you very much, Warren. Unfortunately, we don't have time for more questions, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.